ISKCON BBT founder Acharya, savior of the whole world, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavandi ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Vrindadevi Tulasi Maharani ki jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, titled Questions by Vidura, Text 39. Yama utsavitanayo prithaya. Yama utsavitanayo prithaya. Parthair vrito pakshmabhir akshiniva. Parthair vrito pakshmabhir akshiniva. Remata uddaya mridhe swariktam. Remata uddaya mridhe swariktam. Parat suparna vivavajrivaktra. Parat suparna vivavajrivaktra. Yama utsavitanayo prithaya. Parthair vrito pakshmabhirakshiniva. Remata uddaya mridhe swariktam. Parat suparna vivavajrivaktra. Yamau, twins, Nakula and Sahadev, Utsavit, weather, Tanayo, sons, Prithaya, of Pritha, Parthe, by the sons of Pritha, Vritau, protected, Pakshmabhi, by shield.
Vandeham Sri Guru.
Here it is written by shields. Pakshmabhi, by the eyelids, here it is written as by shields. Akshini, of the eyes. Iva, like. Remate, remate, playing carelessly. Uddaya, snatching. Mridhe, in the fight. Swariktham, own property. Parat, from the enemy Duryodhana. Suparnau, Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu. Eva, like. Vajrivaktrat, from the mouth of Indra. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charnaravind, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Are the twin brothers who are protected by their brothers doing well? Just as the eye is always protected by the eyelid, they are protected by the sons of Pritha, who snatched back their rightful kingdom from the hands of their enemy Duryodhana, just as Garuda snatched nectar from the mouth of Indra, the thunderbolt carrier. Please repeat the translation. Are the twin brothers who are protected by their brothers doing well? Just as the eye is always protected by the eyelid, they are protected by the sons of Pritha, who snatched back their rightful kingdom from the hands of their enemy Duryodhana. Just as Garuda snatched nectar from the mouth of Indra, the thunderbolt carrier. Purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charnaravind, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Indra, the king of heaven, carries a thunderbolt in his hand and is very strong. Yet Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, was able to snatch nectar from his mouth. Similarly, Duryodhana was as strong as the king of heaven, and still the sons of Pritha, the Pandavas, were able to snatch away their kingdom from Duryodhana. Both Garuda and the Parthas are pet devotees of the Lord, and thus it was possible for them to face such strong enemies. Vidura's inquiry was about the youngest brothers of the Pandavas, namely Nakula and Sahadeva. These twin brothers were sons of Madri, the stepmother of the other Pandavas. But although they were stepbrothers, because Kunti took charge of them after the departure of Madri with her husband Maharaj Pandu, Nakula and Sahadev were as good as the other three Pandavas, Yudhishthira, Bhim and Arjuna. The five brothers are known in the world as regular brothers. The three elder Pandavas took care of the younger brothers, just as the eyelid takes care of the eye. Vidura was anxious to know whether after winning back their own kingdom from the hands of Duryodhana, the younger brothers were still living happily under the care of the elder brothers. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yama Utsavitanayo Prithaya Parthe Vritau Pakshmabhir Akshiniva Remata Uddhaya Mridheswariktham Parat Suparna Iva Vajrivaktrat. Are the twin brothers who are protected by their brothers doing well? Just as the eye is always protected by the eyelid, they are protected by the sons of Pritha, who snatched back the rightful kingdom from the hands of their enemy Duryodhana, just as Garuda snatched nectar from the mouth of Indra, the thunderbolt carrier. Hare Krishna. Can you switch on these lights? It's all looking dark over there. Yes. No. So, a very important point is made here in the purport by Srila Prabhupada. Of course, there are 2-3 points. One point which has come up here is that the 5 brothers were known in the world as regular brothers. Who are these 5 brothers? Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjun, Nakula and Sahadeva. The 5 brothers were known as Pandavas, sons of Pandu, although Pandu was not the biological father of any of them. Nakula and Sahadev were twins. They were always mentioned together, along with the first 3. And the biological father or the biological mother of this twin, Nakula and Sahadev, were different from that of the elder brothers. Kunti Maharani was the mother of the 3 elder brothers and Madri of the 2 younger. But although they had no biological connections, they were known as regular brothers. There is a saying in English, also maybe in other places also, stepmotherly treatment. People hear about that. That if the father marries again and he already has children, then the new wife, she often doesn't like very much the children of the elder wife. So that wasn't the case here with Kunti Maharani. She looked after all the sons equally. On the death of Pandu, is it not echoing this? Too much echo is there. So, on the death of Pandu, there was a discussion between Kunti Maharani and Madri, who will follow him or burn with him in the funeral pyre. They both wanted to go. They both would have gone, but because they had young children, they thought one of us should stay. And so Kunti Maharani was specially affectionate towards Nakula and Sahadev. And the three elder brothers were especially very protective about them. So Mahatma Vidura is glorifying them, and in fact in this chapter what we are seeing is that he is glorifying them, he is talking about them. So such thoughts, of what they were planning to do, getting into the funeral pyre along with the husband, is unthinkable in this modern age. That was based on the understanding that the body is anyway temporary, and the wife's devotion towards the husband is such that she literally cannot live without him. She thinks he has gone somewhere else, so I have to go there to serve him. But this is unimaginable in the modern world. Although there was some misuse of this in the 80s, I don't know, some of you were there at that time or not. During the 80s, there was this young girl who went into the fire. I think her name was Roop Kanwar from Rajasthan. Many incidents. This became very famous. This came into highlight. All the local villagers, they exalted her as a goddess who for doing that sati. But Indian government didn't like that. And one reason being it became a very bad international news. Everybody started talking outside that this is what happens in your country and you are saying you are going in 21st century. What is this? So they had to work out that. So they went very strong on that. They arrested, I think, the father and mother, everybody. So many things happened. So like that, there are many things in the Vedic culture that don't fit in on all these modern ideas. Just like, remember a previous prime minister of not this country, of another country, some years back, he made a statement that arranged marriages are equivalent to slavery. That was his point of view. And he wanted to stop any trace of that, forced marriage or arranged marriage and things like that. He considered that as slavery. So in Western idea, freedom of individuals very prominent. It works like that. So their whole idea is that we are here to enjoy ourselves, and they insist that everybody follow their dictates. Whatever they practice, everybody else should practice. But we have something else in front of us to practice. We are reading something. We have great scriptures being given, been sent down through the parampara for us to follow. So we also see how this world outside, the whole world around us is a complete mess. as a reason of their concocted practices which they come up with. People are also in complete mess. What is normalized in their world is actually prohibited in Vedic culture, which they call it as a normal behavior. Vedic culture sees it in a different way altogether. It's prohibited, in fact, in Vedic culture. And what is practiced in Vedic culture is prohibited by the modern, new age people. People who don't like the modern way of life, they just have to adjust to it. There is no other choice for you. You don't have any much big choice over here. Just have to adjust. There is nothing you can do about it. So here we see Vidura's inquiry was about the youngest brother of the Pandavas, Nakula and Sahadeva. That these twin brothers who were son of Madri, who was actually the stepmother of other Pandavas. But although they were stepbrothers, Kunti Maharani took charge of them, and at the departure of Madri with her husband Maharaj Pandu, Nakula and Sahadeva were as good as the other three Pandavas, Yudhishthira, Bhim and Arjuna. The three elder brothers, they were taking very well, the good care of these younger brothers. Just as the Prabhupada gives the example here, analogy, just like the eyelids takes care of the eye. So Mahatma Vidura was quite anxious to know whether after winning back their kingdom from the hands of Duryodhana, the younger Pandavas, are they still living happily under the care of the elder brothers? That was his, anxious way of inquiring about things. So it's a nice analogy given here that how the eyelids are protected by the eyes. Where the twin brothers were protected by the elder Pandavas in a similar way. You see, the eyes are one of the most vulnerable parts of our body. And these two being too small, too young, they were also considered like very vulnerable. Even though they are not vulnerable, they are Kshatriyas. But from the perspective of being as children of stepmother, and mother also passed away, and what is happening about them. And we all know Vaishnavas are paradukha dukhi, they are always concerned about others' concern. So it's natural for Mahatma Vidura to have that kind of a concern, to inquire about them also. He knows about the other three, but what about them? So just like the eyes, which are very vulnerable part of our body, and due to the exposure to the outside, the eyelids, what are these eyelids? These eyelids are responsible for protecting the surface against foreign elements or other stimuli that could damage them. In addition, each time we blink our eyes, it receives a set of substances which moistens the eyes and prevents them from drying out. So we blink, it is said, we blink approximately every 5 seconds. So together with the eyelashes and the eyelids help, protect the eyes from foreign elements, and that can impact the eyes. They also act as a barrier against exposure to intense light or any sort of heat sources. So the eyelids have various essential functions, lubrication of the eyes. So when we blink, it creates a kind of a combination of oils, water that prevents, the eyeball from drying out. In addition to lubricating its surface, blinking has the function of helping to clean the cornea or the conjunctiva of substances that have been attached to them. But you see, Srila Prabhupada uses this eyelid example in various contexts. as well. He would say, in one instance he would say, we are very much proud of our senses, but our senses are so imperfect. Now I see with my eyes, but I cannot see my eyelid. He will make a connection like that I cannot see my eyelid. Eyelid is always attached with the eye, but I cannot see. So our power of using the senses, Prabhupada was trying to say that our power of using the senses is very limited. It is very limited. So we should not depend only on the senses. Another instance where, Prabhupada gives a different context to eyelids is when he says that our eyes that we have got, closing, the eyelid also closes. But Vishnu's eyelids never closes. He says Vishnu's eyelids never closes. Therefore he is called Animisha, Animisha. Therefore gopis condemned Brahmaji that why you have awarded us this nonsense eyelids. Sometimes closes the eye and we cannot see Krishna at that time. So the gopis' desires, they want to see Krishna always without being disturbed by the eyelids. So Prabhupada says this is Krishna consciousness. This is Krishna consciousness. The moment the eyes are being closed by the eyelids, it's intolerable for the gopis. And this is actually perfection of Krishna consciousness. To come to that stage. You don't want to close your eyes as well. Now our situation is very different. It just happens naturally. You leave it for some time like this, it just closes and we go into sleep mode. So the gopis, they are condemning, oh Brahma, you did not know how to create. What creator you are? What sort of creation you have done? You have created these eyelids. This is not helping us in any way. Because we are in this material world, our eyelids are made like that, It must close for a moment again and again it has to close. We are in this world. Not for a moment, it closes sometimes for hours when we go for sleep. Yeah. So, we want to close our eyes for hours. That is our desire here in this material world. And so the eyelids are perfectly working for us. Whereas it was not in the case of gopis, they were finding it an obstacle just in front. Spiritual world, there is no closing of eyes. Prabhupada has mentioned that. Animisha. There is no closing of eyes there. Another instance, Prabhupada said that our present senses are blunt, he said. It's imperfect. They're defective with so many faults. Everyone understands that, or everyone thinks at least that I am very much proud of my eyes. I want to see God. And then Prabhupada says that, but I cannot see my eyelid, but I want to see God. When I block my eyes, I cannot see what is this little fragment of the skin, and I still am proud that I want to see God. Just see. Prabhupada would make such kind of a combination, connections with things. So then Prabhupada says you have to qualify yourself in order to see God. Atas Shri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahyam indriye. You have to qualify God's name, God's forms, God's qualities, God's pastimes, God's paraphernalia, and so many things. Na bhaved grahyam indriye. Indriya means senses. With these blunt senses, you can't see God. Sevan mukho hi jivhado. Only by engaging our tongue in the service of the Lord, one can see. So Prabhupada's teachings are there, which suddenly changes our perspective altogether about the eyelids. Suddenly when you hear that, here it is given in one context, and suddenly you hear something else. So Prabhupada's teachings are undoubtedly a challenge to the modern world. Prabhupada went to America. When he went to America, he dressed in his sannyasi cloth. And when people dress so differently, like how Prabhupada did, it's symbolic, Our dress, if you see however a person dresses, it speaks something of their values, the way a person dresses. It speaks of their values. If someone dresses in an ordinary way, people would deal with them accordingly. That's what it is. If someone dresses with like suit, like some businessman, he's letting people know what is that I have to be taken seriously by his dress. He's making everybody aware that I need to be taken seriously. And people do respect the dress when it comes to things. See, if someone dresses like a punk rocker, it also is very much popular among a certain class, the way they dress. So it's a statement of discontent with the status quo. So Prabhupada or devotees of Srila Prabhupada who dress in a typical Hare Krishna style, in the Western world it makes a very, very clear statement. What is that statement? That we want to be different from the others. We want to be different from others. So in India still, today among women wearing a sari is still normal. But not in the Western world. But if you are wearing that, you are making a statement there. That I want to be seen different. So maybe in another generation, I don't know in India what will be the situation. At least at this moment, we see that women wearing sari is a normal thing. But it would be unusual at some point of time, as things are moving, as things are progressing. To dress in a dhoti for men, that's unusual now. Even now itself. You wear it, it generally means someone who is either very old or who is a Hindu religious person. These are the two categories you will fall in. As soon as they see this, even in this country I'm saying. So Prabhupada openly said that this Krishna consciousness movement is meant for bringing in a complete different understanding and culture, the whole way of life. And many things that, Prabhupada said, whatever Prabhupada said is an athema for the whole modern way of thinking. Even the basic teachings which Prabhupada had given that the soul is eternal and there is reincarnation, most people don't accept that. They have a difficulty with that. And this idea of woman going into the funeral pyre along with the husband's dead body, it's quite unusual to grasp it for even in the modern day generation. If you tell them this pastime of Madhuri and others, they will be shocked, shell-shocked. They'll think, this is what your scriptures teach, this is what is your example, and this and that, all kinds of things. So Prabhupada, one more point which Prabhupada gives is here is the example of Garuda, how Garuda snatched the nectar from Indra. So this is again a pastime that appeared in the Mahabharata, where Garuda's mother Vinita once lost her bet with her sister and co-wife Kadru, who is the mother of the serpents. And because of that, Vinita had to become the slave to Kadru. And finally Kadru said that I will free you if you bring me the nectar. So Garuda went to the heavenly kingdom and he picked the nectar up, and all the demigods became very angry at him, but then he defeated them all. And then Indra threw his vajra at him, and Garuda didn't even notice that vajra falling at him. And just as a courtesy to Indra, that yes, I acknowledge that you have thrown the most powerful weapon at me, he just dropped one feather, just to show a mark, a respect to him. And then he took the nectar and gave it to Kadru. And that's how Garuda released his mother. So in the same way, here Mahatma Vidura is saying that the three elder brothers, they snatched back the kingdom from the hands of Duryodhana. How are they taking care of their younger ones? So here Mahatma Vidura is inquiring about Nakula and Sahadev, and their parents had died quite early, and they were brought up by Kunti Maharani, and they were trained under Dronacharya. They were all trained under Dronacharya. And Nakula and Sahadev were very skilled in their sword fighting and taking care of horses. And they were always protected by the elder brothers, as we will hear as we move forward. And Pandavas were under the protection of, they were both under the protection of Pandavas, the elder Pandavas, and Pandavas were under the protection of Lord Krishna. They were always protected. So the secret of success is to take refuge under the protection of the Supreme Lord. Without His sanction, nothing can be possible. Everyone is seeking protection in this world, no doubt about that. They are seeking refuge. But they don't know where to get that refuge. And so the refuge what they take is again temporary. What is that? This world, this mundane world. And in his purports in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada writes, the secret of success is to take refuge under the protection of the Supreme Lord. Without His sanction, nothing can be possible. So generally, surrendering to someone, what does it mean? To accept defeat. That is how people perceive. You want to take refuge or you want to surrender, it's considered as you have accepted defeat. It's a negative connotation altogether. To give in or to acknowledge one's helplessness or powerlessness, it is seldom viewed as a positive thing. It is not seen as a positive thing. Sometimes surrender is even considered shameful in the modern day world. But surrender to Krishna is glorious. Surrender to Krishna means that taking shelter of the Supreme Lover of us all, who is willing to, willing and able to protect us. Usually in material circumstances, when a person surrenders to his opponent or is the stronger foe who he is embarrassed. He feels embarrassment. I have to do this. What to do? I have no choice. Sometimes he is mistreated, sometimes he is imprisoned, and all kinds of things happen. But surrender to Krishna is not like that. Krishna is not our enemy. He is our best well-wishing friend. And here is written that both where was that? Where it is saying that, how they were under the shelter of Krishna, these Pandavas, and they were protected by the Lord. Krishna is not our enemy, He is our friend. Sudham Sarva Bhutanam. He is our best well-wishing friend. And to submit to Him is actually natural. It is not like that, the way people perceive outside. So what are the obstacles that we find generally for our surrender to our taking refuge of Krishna or the Vaishnavas? It's time and again we see that we are reminded that we have got 4 kinds of defects. What is that? We make mistakes. Our senses are imperfect. We are prone to be in illusion. And we have the tendency to cheat or pretend that we know something that we don't. Or that we are someone that we are not. So these 4 defects are universal, common to everyone. But we, erroneously consider our choices, our decisions correct and worth adhering to, even though they are based on some defective, information received from defective senses. So what are the traps? What prevents us from surrendering? One of the thing is our, you can say, dogged obstinacy, our stubbornness to yield. You see, to concede the truth that we are not the ultimate doer, we are not the ultimate enjoyer, we are not the proprietor. This obstinacy, our stubbornness to yield to these facts, this truth. This is one of the traps. We cling on to these ideas that by our endeavors we will be happy. That's it. By my own endeavor I will be famous, I will be wealthy. This is the perception. We don't like to acknowledge our ignorance. Who wants to do that? Nobody. We do not want to, acknowledge our powerlessness or our smallness. We do not want to acknowledge that. We want to be the master. We don't want to surrender to anyone. We are attached to our misconceptions, we are attached to our illusions and don't want to let them go or to hold on to it. Another trap is that we associate with people who are not surrendering to God. More we associate with them, we will also not surrender eventually. We will naturally reflect the activities and thoughts of those we are primarily in contact with and so associated. So association is, 99% of who we are in this life and will be in the next. We'll decide that what sort of association we are going to take. Regular grateful association with devotees will help us surrender. Because associating with God's sincere servants, what it does, it strengthens our faith in Him. And so why surrendering to God is so necessary and so important? See, Krishna is infinite and we are infinitesimal. Krishna is the macrocosm and we are the microcosm. Krishna is the one and we are the many. Krishna is huge and unlimited and we are tiny and limited. If we at least in principle accept that we are spiritual beings, somehow existing in a, you can say, non-spiritual, temporary environment, then surrendering to God, accepting His shelter. If we acknowledge this much, accept this fact that I am somehow, though I am spiritual being, I am existing in a non-spiritual temporary environment, then you see surrendering to God, accepting His shelter is the way to return to our original joyful, eternal position. Surrender to Krishna is mandatory for our, ultimate success and freedom. As Srila Prabhupada would say, God is great, we are small. The business of the small is to serve the great. But statement over. Serving the great is done under the guidance of a spiritual master. That's where we learn. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made one condition. What is that? You have committed so many sinful activities, I shall excuse them immediately, provided you promise that you will not commit again. That's it. It's a simple thing. I shall excuse you immediately, he said. In fact, Prabhupada, in one lecture, he says this, that this is called initiation. In an initiation lecture, he says this, that just you have to commit that no more I will commit any sinful activity. That's it. To the spiritual master, to Krishna, we will surrender. So, similarly, from the date of our initiation, the spiritual master, the connection between Krishna and the person who cultivating Krishna consciousness is established. So what are the benefits of surrendering to Krishna? So we still have everything we need and our pure desire will be fulfilled. We have many opportunities to surrender and shouldn't let them pass us by, because if we do allow it to pass by, then we will regret it later. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains this happiness in his song about Sharanagati, in surrender, where he says that he actually says to the Lord, in fact, I have become supremely happy by surrendering myself at your lotus feet. Sorrow has gone far away, he says. Sorrow has gone far away and there are no more cares. All that I see is joy in 4 directions. I am only seeing joy. So your 2 lotus feet are reservoirs of immortal nectar, and it grants freedom from both sorrow and fear. And resting in them, I have found peace, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, and have completely given up this fear of worldly existence. So when we make a conscious choice to surrender to Krishna, to accept His shelter, we become more and more aware of His protection. We'll become more and more aware. And He gives the surrendered soul all protection. So the position of Nakula and Sahadeva, where they were constant supporters of their elder brothers, they have always taken refuge of Yudhishthira, Bhima and Arjuna, always under their refuge. They gave them all kinds of support, confidence, respect, love and care, all the time. They always stood as, in fact Nakula and Sahadeva, they always stood as helping hands for every work what the elder Pandavas were doing. They had taken the responsibility of taking care of the guests during the Rajasuya Yajna, and it was actually Sahadeva who first argued against Shishupal when he teased Krishna. He was the first person to stand up and argue about it. Nakula and Sahadev never questioned Yudhishthira. Even when they were said that you stay back, we are going to the... They said, no, we will also follow you to the forest. This shows their humbleness. They took they also took the vow of killing the Kauravas. Nakula took the vow to kill, vow to help Bhima to kill Dhartarashtra's, and Sahadeva took the vow of killing Shakuni. So, in Kurukshetra war, they played multiple roles. Nakula and Sahadeva. They fought with many. Each day they fought with many. They took the responsibility of defending the army. They were the first to run to anyone's help in the war. If somebody needs help, they will be there to help them. They actually fought against Dronacharya, they fought against Bhishma, Karna, Kritavarma, and many. Shalya, Ashwathama, Bhurishwara, Duryodhana, Dushasana, and other Kauravas. Sometimes individually and sometimes in group. According to the need of the time, they will be always there. So, though they didn't win each time against each person, they never gave up, but stood each time and defended the army. So Nakula and Sahadeva were always major part of every vyuha. The vyuha which they make, the what you call the chakra vyuha, kind of vyuha, various combination of attack onto the army. They were always part of that, how to do it. Whatever Pandavas were forming, those vyuha, they will be always part of that. And they were protected all the time by the elder brothers. So taking shelter or refuge is a key. If they acted independently, who can provide shelter to them? And how can we be protected if we act something separately from what Prabhupada has asked us to do? Prabhupada has also given us shelter and refuge, provided we follow the standards that are given by Prabhupada. If we dilute those standards, then we are risking ourselves of being carried away by Maya. What did he say? Just chant minimum 16 rounds, follow 4 regulative principles. Attend our morning sadhana. So Nakula and Sahadev, when we hear about them, we learn this lesson that they actually reminded us about something. What is that? That they remained under the protection and refuge of their elder brothers, the Pandavas. And the Pandavas were devotees of Lord Krishna. Pandavas are devotees of Lord Krishna, and they were always dependent on Lord Krishna and under the protection of Lord Krishna because they were there. So obviously Nakula and Sahadeva were also protected by Lord Krishna. They didn't want to act independently. So we have spiritual master like Srila Prabhupada, whom we have taken refuge. He is very dear to Krishna, so we are also dear to Krishna in that sense, provided we listen to what his pure devotee has asked or instructed us to do. Our problem is that we want to be independent and don't wish to be under the guidance and refuge of senior Vaishnavas. You see, taking refuge is the easiest way. In fact, but we need to be sincere about it. Taking refuge means that we follow the person's instructions. Who has given you the refuge? In a war-like situation, the military will take care of things and then they will say, this is the way you have to be. You don't move around here and there. You are under my protection. So they will take care of the citizens' concerns and everything, provided they follow. If they act independently, they are going to risk even them. Everybody will at risk. So we need to be sincere about it. Then we are safe spiritually. The person who gives refuge, all the anxiety is his actually, not ours. It's as simple as that if you take shelter, if you just follow. We need to just follow his instructions. So these are some of the points which came up in the reading of this purport. So I'll stop here. Unless if there's any questions. Yes, please. Who has a question? Hare Krishna.
While you as a person lack clarity, this idea of refuge can potentially cause dependency. And you also said, people want to be independent, but then dependency has its own issues, because then you lack initiative, you lack the confidence to approach anything, and that can cause other social issues. How do you balance those?
You see, in the modern day context, if you see, the way we are brought up, the way the whole education system is, it actually is taking us to a different direction altogether, where it says the same kind of statements that being dependent on someone means that we are lacking on something to manage certain things. What was the exact word you had used? Can you repeat? If you are dependent, then?
Lacking confidence or initiative because you have this dependency.
The question is, why it's like, you see, a son is dependent on father. How is he lacking confidence in him? The son is lacking confidence. Why? Because father is always giving him an opportunity. He is, at a certain time he needs protection, and that protection he gives. And then he also gives him the necessary skill sets to develop on how to face the world. This comes through when we take refuge of a father. If we don't, then we are at our own. So,
can I continue?
Yes, please.
So the world is changing. This may be true in old times, where professions used to just carry on generation after generation. But in the modern time, a father may not know anything about computers. My dad did not know anything about computers, while my profession is full-time computers. He couldn't help me in any regard when it comes to computers. I'm just making up, I'm exaggerating a little bit.
I know, understand. I see, even in 80s, my father didn't have any knowledge of computers, but he encouraged me to take up computer science. It's just that they had that vision that the coming days, this kind of a machine is going to become the most important thing in everybody's life. It will change with that. Though he was more of a ledger fellow with a pen, writing everything, text. Yes, they guided us. That's what I'm saying. They guided us to take up computer science, and then we went. And then wherever the help was needed, the help was given. So dependency doesn't mean to become lazy. You don't play your part. You have to play your part, then the other person is there to help us. Even in the spiritual life also, we have taken shelter of Srila Prabhupada. He has given us the way and clarity is there for us how to move forward, how to take care of things. And he practically has shown with his own example, maybe at that time when he was saying some things, at this age if you see, the technology and all has changed quite a bit. But then he was never shying away from using technology, and he has given us also a hint that you also don't shy away from using technology, provided you don't get into that entanglement of that technology. Keep yourself for that bhajana time, you do bhajan, and rest of the time you have services, you utilize it. So this kind of instructions are there. But then when we should not think as, some kind of weakness of ours, of we will become not very useful. No. Provided the person is not trying to exploit you, then he may stop you from learning. That's another thing. But if the person is not that, he is open for all this, then you can grow like anything, being dependent on the Lord. How this Pandavas example, you see, they were dependent on Krishna and they became such great warriors, and they ruled the whole earth. So that is there. Nothing has changed from that, from what was happening then and now. The concept is all the same. We are all dependent. We need to be dependent for the protection. It is required. Right? Anything else? Anybody wants to make a comment? Yes, first statement.
Prabhu, sometimes this Madri's son's doubts again and again arise. Is Nakula and Sahadev were like her children's or the Kunti's children, because they are son of Ashwini Kumaras, and Ashwini Kumaras were called by Kunti Maharani, or Madri also had a boon that she can also call the Devtas, or how
I think Kunti Maharani had shared that with Madri, that she can also make use of that mantra and she can invite. That's what it is. Anything else?
Hare Krishna. This is what is my understanding. Surrender is a stereotype in a modern society. Even that's what the same experience I had. But they are not away from that. Only thing is they have changed the jargons of it. They tell you have to be obedient to your superior. You have to be punctual in your timings. These are only the different aspects of elements or different components of surrendering oneself. And then when we say surrender, which is a Vedic way of all these other elements, they become inimical to such kind of lifestyle. This is, I thought I wanted to share. And one more thing is, when we follow the authority, when we depend on the authority, even in the modern days, it is still so relevant. The recent news which is going on is the workers, the laborers who got stuck in a tunnel. They're being digged again and again. Entire government media is under full attention. That's because they've been obeying their authority to dig a tunnel. They got stuck because they are being obedient, they are doing the duty. The entire system is behind them to rescue them.
Yes. That this philosophy, this thing is always prevalent, and it works. Exploiting somebody is a different thing altogether. That maybe also there are some stray incidences, but more or less you will see people when they see that you're following, then you get empowered. You get empowered. When you follow, you are empowered. Not that you are going to lack something or you will be dumped down or something like that. No. Empowerment comes because they know that you will use it, you will not misuse it. And the empowerment comes there. Immediately it comes. Because everybody is, at least in Krishna consciousness, everybody knows we have very limited time. Within that time we will have to do our role and we will have to pass on from this world. So before that the baton has to be handed over to somebody, prepare them in a manner that they continue with the parampara, what Prabhupada has started. The mission has to continue. So this broad-mindedness is there in those who take services from others. They know that it's not that I will only all the time continue with the thing. It's not possible. Age is catching up, so many things are catching up. So responsibilities have to be given. But then when you are giving the responsibility, you need to see the person who is taking that responsibility or plan to be given responsibility, how much is surrendered to Krishna, how much is surrendered to Guru's words. That's a primary check there. If that is there, then everything is, then empowerment just happens like this. Prabhupada empowered devotees like, go to this center, go that center, open their branch, open this branch. And everybody was doing it. Not that Prabhupada was doing micromanagement of them. No, he was not doing that. But he had confidence that they will follow, wherever they are, they will follow sadhana, they will follow their things. And that's the protection. That is the protection. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thy Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.